Hey guys, welcome to Other Patterns of Inheritance Notes. We've been talking about Mendel's genetics, which is a very basic understanding of how genetics work. And sometimes it's not so simple. So we're going to talk about some situations when when our genetics don't follow those rules, as dominant, recessive, and everything like that. So here, genetics is a bit more complicated. Most traits are actually controlled by more than one gene. So if you remember, we have 23 pairs of chromosomes. And so this is one pair of chromosomes. So let's call this our two first chromosomes or our 2 second chromosomes. And we have been saying that, let's say that this gene right here, that we have two versions of the same gene. And this could be for blue eyes and this could be for brown eyes, and that one is recessive and one is dominant. Well, in reality, sometimes we have more than one gene that is going to control your eye color or your hair color or how fast you grow or how slow you grow. And so those actually are going to have an interplay. One way that things are different is when things are incompletely dominant over the other. Some alleles are neither recessive or dominant. So if we see that if we look at a red flower, if we breed a red flower and a white flower, these two, usually we would say that the red flower is dominant over the white flower or vice versa. But what we're saying here is that the white flower is incompletely dominant over the white flower. So what's actually happening here is something like, so we know that our genes or our DNA is a set of instructions on how to make proteins. And what's happening here is that that gene is sort of working, but not really. So that protein is being made sort of, but not enough or not quite right. So some red color is being made, but not enough to be completely dominant. A little bit of red is being made, but not all the red. And so what happens when we see incomplete dominance is that we see sort of a mushing together or a melding of the trait. So we see what would happen if we have white and red. What happens is you get a pink flower. We would get two pink flowers. And if we were to do a Punnett square, well, let's keep talking and we'll talk about how to do these Punnett squares later. So this is an example of incomplete dominance, where one is incompletely dominant over the other. Co-dominance is similar yet different. They're both dominant. So both the red and the white gene is dominant and therefore will be expressed. So therefore you can see in this flower that both traits are expressed, both the red and the white. And so you'll see that speckled. And we'll talk about that in our homework with chickens. If you have black and white co-dominant, you'll see a chicken will be black and white, or the same thing with a cow. So this is co-dominance. Sometimes you see a dog with two different colored eyes. It's because those two colored eyes are co-dominant. They both will be expressed. Here are another exception to the rule. So we said that traits that are controlled by more than one gene, we call these polygenic traits. And big words are not scary when you break them down. Poly meaning many, genic meaning genes, many genes traits. When we talk about this, we're usually going to talk about height or skin color. So when we talk about polygenic traits, it's not that a trait is one thing or the other, like red or white. You have a spectrum, right? You're not either short or tall. You're just somewhere. There's not just one or the other that you can be. There's a spectrum as to your height or your skin color. You're not either just dark or light. There's a spectrum. You're somewhere on this line. And so this we can express with this graph right here. So most people are going to be somewhere in the middle. And some people are going to be very, 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 very light, and some people are going to be very, very, very dark. And so how does this work? Well, we have more than one gene for this trait. So let's say that the 3 genes for this trait are trait A, B, and C. And let's say that the darker colored skin is dominant to lighter colored skin. And so if you have more capitals or more dominant traits, there's this additive effect. And so we'll have, if you have AA, like capital A, capital B, little b, big C, you have more capital letters here. And so this person's going to have, when we're looking at this, darker skin. But this person over here has fewer capital letters or fewer dominant darker skin alleles. And so they're going to have lighter skin. So it's that additive effect when we have polygenic traits. Here's our last slide of new information. Environmental conditions can also affect how our genes are expressed. So if you see here, our DNA is set up with A's, T's, C's, and G's. And the order of those A's, T's, C's, and G's is what determines how your proteins are made and what determines who you are and how you are made. However, some of these genes can be turned on and turned off, and that's the job of your environment. Your environment can turn some genes on, and your environment can turn some genes off. And so that's also going to play a role in how your genes are expressed. So your environment does play a role. It's not nature or nurture that determines who you are. It's both nature and nurture. It is our genes and our environment. So let's look at how we can do these codominant traits. Let me turn on the pen. And we'll do blue. So if we were to set up something that is codominant, one cow with, we cross a red cow with a white cow. We actually call, well, let's come to this in a moment. So when we're doing codominant or incomplete dominance, we're going to use 2 capital letters. So red is going to be represented by big R, big R. So the red cow has nothing to give except red genes. So let's put big R, and the white cow has WW. It has nothing but white genes to give. So we'll put WW. And so if we cross this, we have RW. Oop, that's a W. RW. 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 So this is completely 100% heterozygous. We will have no red cows, no white cows, but we do have something called roan cows. And a roan cow is a cow that is both red and white. It's like a red spotted cow. And so this is going to be 100%. And that's how we do codominance. Now let's go to our incomplete dominance. Oh, I need to turn off my pen. Here we go. Incomplete dominance is pretty much the same, except that it's not going to be red and white. It would be pink. It would be, remember that the trait comes together. So if we have cross a red flower with a yellow flower, so we're going to do the same thing. We have a red flower and a yellow flower. If we cross this, we have red and yellow, red and yellow, red and yellow, red and yellow. We have a 100% chance, well, if you combine red and yellow incompletely, so if red is incompletely dominant over yellow, you're going to get orange. So this would be orange, 100% orange flowers. So if we were to, you're not always going to get 100%. You're going to get sometimes whites and sometimes yellows, or sometimes reds, sometimes yellows, and sometimes oranges. So I hope this helps for you to complete this worksheet. Let me know if you have any questions.